Yes, indeed, dear listener. Thank you so much for joining in for the 5th edition of Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. I'm Russ, scouting solo until I hit up with Luke again this weekend. This show is typically supplemental to HSP, and this show is also late, dear listener. My apologies, and I'll get to why in just a second. We're going to discuss hella top-of-the-stack topics this week. Normally, we take on the lesser topics on this show, but we're going to do some heavy lifting this week, and I'll tell you why once again in just a second. Bots means bottom of the stack. A bot is HSP speak for a single topic in bottom of the stack, or bot. Now, I suppose I could call this show TOTS this week since we're doing top of the stack, but it just ain't right. I refuse the term TOTS from the HSP lexicon, so we still bots. Overall, this was a pretty damn good week. Felt like a slow news week there for a minute. I mean, that is until I started going through my stack, my show prep this week, and looking at all this crazy stuff that went down this week. Insane. Lots to cuss and discuss, so let's giddy up and let's ride into episode number 5. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, all 3 under Zero Gravity Media. Find us on YouTube, look for Zero Gravity Media and our Zero G logo. Now, before I tell you what's stuck in my craw this week, dear listener, let me fill you in on a couple things. Dear listener, Luke and I simply needed a break this week. That's all. We've been working hard. Lots of stuff going on with both of us in our personal lives. Luke had a particularly tough week this week. Hell, so did I. We simply needed a week off. And since I was already slack on doing bots number 5 this week, I'm going to go ahead and blaze the trail solo. Can't have a week where both HSP and Botchstat are silent. Now listen, I swear, everything is cool. Luke and I threw down a Friday night comfy post last Friday night, so that might drop soon. Now, we were both a little bit tipsy, so Luke might throw the kibosh on it. But we had a pretty fascinating short discussion about professional martial arts, mixed martial arts in particular, boxing and mixed martial arts. I was just on the horn with Luke. He's well. I'm well. Just needed a week off, dear listeners, so we hope you understand, and our sincerest apologies. I actually just got a message from Luke just a minute ago. He's doing great. Everything's cool. We're going to be back on our regular schedule this coming Saturday, just like always. Now, I'm already getting texts to the effect of, where's HSP? Is everything okay? Yes, dear listener. Everything's fine. Luke's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The Beatles are not breaking up, dear listener. We're not wanting to go working on our own songs or anything like that. Everything is just fine. So without any further ado, this is what stuck in my craw this week. Started out this way. To take a Zero Hedge piece that dropped on April 8th, it goes thusly from the top. In yet another annoyance for the Trump administration as it seeks to implement its immigration reforms to end what's become an undeniable crisis at the southern border, emphasize undeniable crisis at the southern border, a federal judge in San Francisco, surprise, surprise, has issued an injunction blocking a Trump administration policy that would have returned non-Mexican asylum seekers to Mexico while their cases were pending. Well, lo and behold, what ends up happening next on Friday, April the 13th? I'm reading a Ryan A. Fournier tweet right now, breaking. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled to uphold the Trump administration's policy on making asylum seekers wait for their court hearings in Mexico as opposed to the United States. In all caps, big win. And yes, it is a big win, but I have to emphasize underscore right here, dear listener. Yes, it's a big win. Yes, I can't believe that the Ninth voted this way, but this is a temporary stay on the federal judge's decision. They can reverse this decision anytime they want, willy-nilly, and reverse that decision they will. You take that check to the bank and cash it. It is going to happen. Nonetheless, I was surprised by the magnanimity of the Ninth Circuit Court. I really couldn't believe it. Not just magnanimity, the judicial foresight of the Ninth Circuit Court. And I use the term judicial foresight for this reason. The Ninth Circuit has an awful record in appellate courts and with the Supreme Court. Not most, but many of the decisions the Ninth Circuit Court makes get overturned, right? So do not doubt for a minute that the Ninth Circuit Court did not realize that this decision would be overturned also if it went through. Why is this? Because it's the Trump administration's right entirely to make illegal immigrants wait for their asylum hearings in Mexico. And apparently, more to the point, it seems like some type of deal of which we don't know the specifics has been struck with Mexico, so that Mexico has agreed to let these quote unquote asylum seekers and little bundles of love, as Nancy Pelosi always says, stay in Mexico while those hearings come up. This is nothing but white pilling for this reason, because right now, at this very moment, we are 2.5 years out on immigration hearings, on asylum hearings, okay? So somebody shows up at our border and says, I want asylum. Okay. We book them. We say, yeah, okay, here's your court date. We hold them for a couple days. We say, yeah, here's your asylum court date hearing in 2.5 years. Well, the vast majority never show up again. And by vast majority, I'm talking about like 97, 98%. All right. That last 2%, 3% right in there, these are the people that I would say are very serious about becoming American citizens, right? That other 97%, 98%, hell with them. You go wait in Mexico, right? It's Mexico's job to let them wait there anyway, because really what's supposed to happen here is you're supposed to, number one, declare asylum in the first country on whose soil you touch your feet first. Like the United States laws are just so messed up, and Trump has been tweeting a lot about that today, that they need to be reformed, right? Because we just take anybody, and this is because of a lot of bad court decisions and our entirely messed up immigration laws in the United States. Messed up is a kind way to put it. So anyways, this is nothing. It's very surprising. It's a little bit white pilling. The president came out and declared it a total victory, that the court is now on his side and all that kind of stuff. And I can understand why, because his shock must have been so great that they actually decided with him for once. But it's not a total victory, because this is only a temporary stay on the federal judge's decision in San Francisco. All right. Now, this is also stuck in my craw. This happened last week, and a lot of people are talking about it, but it's kind of been buried in the miasma of all the rest of the news cycle this week. I'm going to take a Breitbart piece from the lead. It dropped on the 12th. It goes thus: New York Democrats kill bill for tuition for Gold Star families. I'm going to read 3 paragraphs. Here we go. Democrats in New York killed a proposal for tuition assistance for children of veterans killed in battle, and instead approved a bill to give illegals free tuition. The New York Republican Party smashed the Democrats on Twitter, saying, quote, Democrats just rejected tuition assistance for Gold Star families, but approved it for illegal aliens. Would these Democrats dare to look in the eyes of the children of the fallen servicemen and, okay, let's don't be histrionic about it. Let's just look at it right on its face. Free tuition for illegals? No tuition for Gold Star families. These are American citizens. These are the children of American citizens who went and fought and gave their lives in the United States' interest in the world, right? This tells you exactly what the agenda is right here, dear listener, and the hypocrisy right on the face of it is just shocking to behold. But should we be surprised? Absolutely not. New York is a leftist hellhole, just like San Francisco, all of California, as a matter of fact. And listen, we've got wonderful listeners in New York City. I don't mean any offense, but dear listeners in California, of whom there are numerous, and New York as well, particularly New York City, y'all got to get active. Y'all got to straighten out your government, or you're going to end up having to leave, man, because that's exactly what they want, is they want you out, and they want all of these illegals in. And there is no further proof necessary than the proof already in the pudding. Now, while we're talking about this, all right, Luke and I always say, we're ride or die President Trump, all right? We love President Trump, but when he messes up, we're going to criticize him, okay? I personally, on Botched Ad number 4, criticized the president for his decision with Mexico about, we're not going to relitigate it again. It's in number 4. You can go listen to it yourself, okay? No reason in going back over that, right? That was a big mistake, right? Now, here we are. The president is doing exactly right, and I'm going to read another Zero Hedge piece from the top. It dropped on Friday. It goes thus: the White House is considering transferring immigrants detained at the southern border to Democrat-controlled, quote, sanctuary cities. After reports surfaced that the idea was brought up twice and shot down by attorneys from Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, President Trump tweeted on Friday that his administration is, quote, indeed, as reported, giving strong considerations to placing illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities only, adding, quote, the radical left always seems to have an open borders, open arms policy, so this should make them very happy. And he did a news conference. I don't have the audio queued up, most unfortunately. I wish I dug that up, but I've seen it so many times where he was just like, I thought this would be a bipartisan bill. I thought this is what the sanctuary cities would want. They can help us out on the border. We can help them out with their illegal immigration desires. This is a win-win for everybody. Sarah Sanders has been on the news networks this past Sunday, as has Kellyanne Conway, saying the same words to that effect. Oh, man. All right. So I'm going to read this little bit that I did not specifically know, and I don't think anybody knew this. And this also dropped on the 12th, right after the Zero Hedge article, and it's a Breitbart piece. It says, DHS blocks White House plan to bus migrants into Democrats' districts. Officials at the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, blocked a White House proposal to spotlight Central American migration by busing the migrants into Democrats' quote, sanctuary city neighborhoods, according to the Washington Post itself, the leftist rag itself. DHS staffers leaked the hardball proposal to Democrat legislators, the newspaper reported. Paragraph 3. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco was among those the White House wanted to target. According to DHS officials, the administration also considered releasing detainees in other Democratic strongholds. White House officials first broached the plan in a November 16th email, asking officials at several agencies whether members of the caravan could be arrested at the border and then bused to small and mid-sized sanctuary cities, places where local authorities have refused to hand over illegal immigrants for deportation. The White House told U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement that the plan was intended to alleviate a shortage of detention space, but also served to send a message to Democrats. The attempt at political retribution raised an alarm within ICE, with a top official responding that it was rife with budgetary and liability concerns and noting that, quote, there are PR risks as well. Now, I'm going to read a lot from this article because it's impotent. There's a lot going on in this article, so I'm going to continue from paragraph 5. In response, Democrats inserted language into the 2019 budget designed to make the tactic difficult. The language grants $114 million for missing migrants in 2019, but only for delivering migrants into shelters capable of accepting the migrants. Within the $114 million, $147,000 increase above the fiscal year 2018 funding level for the Transportation and Removal Program, ICE is directed to provide for the transportation of migrants to such shelters based on where collaborating organizations have opened sheltering capacity, including during surge periods. This is impotent. President Donald Trump recently promised to take a tougher approach when he fired DHS Chief Kirstjen Nielsen, so the potentially powerful tactic may be deployed. Let that sink in for 1 second. If so, the tactic would dramatically show the Democrats' willingness to allow hundreds of thousands of poor migrants to flood into blue-collar Americans' workplaces, neighborhoods, and schools, while also excluding the low-status migrants from upscale, status-conscious, Democrat-run districts such as San Francisco. The plan would also spotlight the Democrats' policy of protecting businesses by hiding migrants and even criminal migrants from repatriation by the DHS. Okay. Now, we're on the trail. We're on trail A right here, dear listener. We're on the black trail right now. We're fixing to jump off into the woods right here, and we're going to go do this blue trail over here real quick. It's a solid trail. It's all downhill. There are just a couple of nice jumps on it, no moguls or anything like that. So let's break off from trail A and go over here to trail B out here in the woods, and let's do some sightseeing while we're doing it. Now, I want to refer to Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 4. What was it that I said in Bots, Thoughts, Drops, and Drops number 4 about Kirstjen Nielsen? I said literally something to this effect. Well, honey, if you can't do the job, you got to step your ass down. We got to get somebody in there who can do the job. And who is that? My personal nomination is Chris Kobach. That's who I want to see as DHS secretary. And once upon a time, I happen to know for a fact that the president himself wanted to see Chris Kobach as DHS secretary. Well, it was an interesting story what was going on with Kirstjen Nielsen that week, okay? So she was in Europe, right? She was supposed to be there for a 5-day, I don't know what she was doing, giving a bunch of speeches, saying, yes, bring in more migrants, I would assume, right? Well, she was there for 24 hours, hopped a plane back to the United States. I suspect fearing that she knew that her job was in jeopardy, goes and meets up with the president, jumps on Air Force One, and goes to Calexico, Mexico. Or Mexico, well, that's about right. Sorry, California. Calexico, California, tours the border with him, hangs out with him for a couple of days, makes a couple of appearances on Fox News, including Tucker Carlson, kind of justifying, oh my God, we're just overrun. There's nothing we can do. What are we going to do, right? Well, this past week, right? She shows up at the White House to meet the president, thinking it was just a regular, ordinary meeting. She leaves that meeting 1 hour later, having resigned. All right. Mr. President, first of all, thank you so much for your patronage. Thank you for listening to Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. Thank you for listening to Hardly Strictly Politics. We've got numerous other offerings on Zero Gravity Media that you think you would enjoy. But why I preen here, dear listener, why I preen is that the president did exactly what I recommended, that I didn't really hear anybody else except for Lou Dobbs recommending. He had to get rid of Kirstjen Nielsen. All right. Now, I know that what happened in the White House during that Kirstjen Nielsen meeting, she went in thinking that she was maybe going to get chewed out a little bit, but she'd been chewed out before. She'd be able to keep her open borders policy going on. She would not have to take the border seriously. She would not end up having to build the wall or any of this other kind of stuff. Trump would blow up at her and go on to get along. Well, dear listener, I know that what happened is that the president had her resignation letter typed up, asking only for her signature. Now, I think that the president actually does like Kirstjen Nielsen. I like her too in a lot of ways. She just isn't getting the job done. This is nothing personal, honey. This is strictly professional, right? So he got her resignation and he let her go. All right. Now, I want to make another connection here. We're going to take another little short trail off of Trail B, and we're going to go take a jump here real quick through the trees. And we're going to kick up some dust while we do it. It goes thus. What did I say in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 4? Now that Spygate, now that Russia has been proven inconclusive, completely false, completely fabricated, no collusion, what did I say? The president was unleashed to create his agenda. After 2 years of his presidency has been wasted, has been killed, the president can finally do what it is he wants to do, right? Step number 1 of that was getting rid of Kirstjen Nielsen, right? Now, all right, we're coming out of the trees. We did our jumps. We kicked up some powder. We're getting back onto trail number A right now. And I want to make this connection for you here real quick. All of this stuff going on with the sanctuary cities proclamations that the president is making right now, we just read in that previous Zero Hedge piece that I just read to you that Kirstjen Nielsen was the one blocking the president since November about delivering illegals into sanctuary cities. So what has he done? He's gotten rid of her. She's gone. Now, as soon as the week that he literally gets rid of her, he makes that threat. And I don't think that this is an empty threat, and we're going to get to that in a minute. There is one remark I want to make about this. Now, this is the policy, and always has been, of one Trump advisor by the name of Stephen Miller. Everybody knows him. Miller time. Stephen Miller would come out on the campaign trail during all the rallies. He would give the warm-up speech, which were fantastic. We happen to know that he and Steve Bannon wrote the president's really fantastic, most fantastic speeches. Stephen Miller has a hand in his speech writing most of the time, other than when you hear the president being a little bit kind of cucky. It is rumored that Ivanka gets in the speech writing process and tries to soften up the language a little bit and throws her 2 cents in because he wants a pony. And Dad promised me a pony. So I'm going to get this pony because he's going to let me write the speech and then he's going to give me a pony. That's what's going on. All right. But Stephen Miller, listen. All right. What ended up happening before all of this stuff on Friday? None other than one Ilhan Omar comes out on Wednesday and calls him a white nationalist. Can you believe this? Stephen Miller, all right, I would not call him an Orthodox Jew, but he is a faithful Jew, and he is anything but a white nationalist. No, what this man is an American patriot. This man loves this country. He has had a singular, uncompromising vision for this mega agenda since the very beginning, And I'm beginning to think now that only two people have ever held that agenda besides the president himself, and that is Stephen K. Bannon and Stephen Militime. All right? She comes out running cover. I'm thinking, you're not running cover, but trying to do some preemptive damage, calling Stephen Miller a white nationalist. Okay, the claim is absurd on its face. The president came out and excoriated Ilhan Omar for saying such a thing, and she shouldn't say such a thing. Like calling somebody a racist or a white nationalist, man, that's a really big deal. And I'm glad to see that people on the right are not standing up for that bullshit anymore, that we're finally standing up and defending ourselves from these unjust accusations to which the cuck right, the blob, has always bowed down forever and ever and ever. And now we've got a few fighters up there in the government. This is nothing but white pilling. This is good. All right. Now, what has happened since Ilhan Omar called Stephen Miller a white nationalist, and then he came out on Friday, or then Trump came out on Friday and made the sanctuary city, quote, threat? Everybody's blaming Stephen Miller for it, right? Stephen Miller has always been an immigration hardliner, unlike Jarvanka, right? That means Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, unlike them, right? Unlike seemingly just about anybody else in the president's cabinet, right? He has always been hardline. He's always been faithful to the American people and to the original agenda, right? But I've just got to say, everybody's blaming Stephen Miller for it. Everybody's blaming Trump for it and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that's true. I believe that this is a crowdsourced idea. I have seen this idea expressed in comment sections since Trump first descended the gilded escalator in June of 2015. And no less than a month after that, I would see people in comment sections, yeah, okay, if we've got to take all these illegals in, let's ship them to San Francisco. Let's ship them to Martha's Vineyard. Let's ship them to Malibu. Let's ship them to New York City. Let's ship them to the Hamptons. You know? And so it's a crowdsourced idea, but the president, what I'm saying to you, has been hand-tied to do anything about it because of Russia, Russia, Russia. Now I'm seeing proof that the shackles are unleashed, and the president is going to be able to do what he wants to do. We'll see how it goes, okay? The president has been shockingly disappointing from time to time. I'm not going to sit here and defend his every move, okay? But Mr. President, you done good this week, sir. You've done fantastically. And I am proud that I voted for you, and I've got your back in 2020 as long as you don't burn the house down. Oh, man, I cannot believe I didn't say this first. Speaking of burning the house down, got to talk a little bit about the Notre Dame Cathedral. Oh, my God. This is nothing but black pilling. Dear listener, this is a 700-year-old building, and just watching it burn in Paris before our very own eyes today is, it's heartbreaking. It's nothing less than heartbreaking. And it's being reported right now that it was probably because of a construction accident because Notre Dame was under renovations. I believe we're going to hear a little bit more about this story. I'm just going to leave it right there. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about it, right? But the white pills, thus far, you know, you always got to take the good with the bad. The only white pills we have is that, number one, it seems like nobody was hurt in this fire. And number two, it was announced today that Bill Barr is going to release a partially redacted Mueller report on Thursday. And the left was already out grinding their axes about, you know, the agenda going up to Thursday. And thankfully, the Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire, and that kind of took the wind out of their sails for like sharpening the axes about what they're going to say about to attack Bill Barr in the Mueller report. I'm going to get to that a little bit. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself right here. But thankfully, at least some of that was diverted for a day. But these leftists don't care anything about Notre Dame. They don't care anything about Christianity. They don't care anything about Western civilization whatsoever. They're going to be right back on the warpath tomorrow, just like they always are. They're like the Terminator. They never stop. They will never stop. All right. So moving on a little bit, I got a story here from Vox. Can you believe it? I'm fixing to quote Vox for real and honest, right? It dropped yesterday on Sunday. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. President Donald Trump's surrogates tried to clarify his tweeted proposal to bus detained immigrants to, quote, sanctuary cities Sunday, but left the matter nearly as unsettled as it had been when the president initially reintroduced the plan his own administration had declared dead. White House officials said the plan had been discussed and dismissed. Friday, however, President Trump contradicted his staff and tweeted the White House was still, quote, giving strong consideration to the idea. That meant Sunday, his officials were left scrambling to defend the proposal to weekend show hosts. Sarah Sanders, that is, my darling, I love her so much. Sanders promoted the idea as a potential bipartisan win when speaking to Stephanopoulos on Sunday. The president likes the idea, and Democrats have said they want these individuals into their communities, so let's see if it works out and everyone gets a win out of it, the press secretary said. Well said, ma'am. Well said. Oh my God, this is nothing but great. So what I want to detail in this point about immigration and about the sanctuary city threat, okay? We're seeing pushback from the president's own cabinet about this, from his own administration. Oh no, that's not what the president really said. We turned the side down about November 15. We ain't really talking about this. The president comes out and he's like, bullshit. Yeah, we are talking about it. Get in line. Get in line or GTFO, like Kirsten Nielsen. Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So, all right. You see what I'm saying? Trump unleashed, unshackled. He's finally getting to do the business. And I'm white-pilled enough by what I see that I think he's actually getting the business done. I've got some tweets collected here. Let me zoom through these real quick and see if any of these are worthy of our airtime. I'm going a little bit longer than I wanted to already. Okay, James Woods. If Trump does this, it will be the funniest thing ever. He should literally drop them by the busload in front of the governor's mansion. Trump could actually do this. He's that politically savvy. The Democrats want street theater? What a visual. Well said, Mr. Woods. This one came out 2 days ago. Democrats must change the immigration laws fast. If not, sanctuary cities must immediately act to take care of the illegal immigrants. This includes gang members, drug dealers, human traffickers, and criminals of all shapes, sizes, and kinds. Change the laws now. Absolutely right, Mr. Trump. And what he's doing about this, the reason he's saying is that Congress is on actually a 2-week break right now. Can you believe it? Dear listener, they get a 2-week break right here in the middle of the summer because of Easter and everything, because they're all so religious and faithful. Of course it is. Of course it is. So they're on 2-week break, and Trump is actually in the process of summoning them back to Congress to fix these laws right now. Will it happen? Of course it won't, because the blob on both the left and the right don't want this to happen. They don't want immigration laws fixed by a damn sight. So is it going to happen? Are they going to rush back and fix sanctuary city laws, immigration laws? No. But at least we have a soldier who is saying it. Some great reactions from the left here. I want to talk a little bit about Libby Schaaf, I think. First of all, I've got some audio pulled up from her. It's really quite entertaining. This dropped on Friday. It goes thus.
Open borders, this is what you guys could get, is a bunch of undocumented workers, people dumped in your city. Your reaction?
This has less to do with immigration and more to do with a complete abuse of power and public resources. The idea that this administration could use human beings, families, children, to exact political vengeance on enemies is outrageous.
All right, I want to stop it right there for just a second. All right, this player that I'm using, I'm on K-Pix right now. It's not the best player in the world, not quite as responsive as YouTube, so sorry about that bleed in the audio right there. Not to mention, it's playing really quiet. It was horrible audio. I fix in post. I fix. I bring you good fix. It's just really funny how, it's just despicable that he could use these people as political pawns to enact vengeance against all of these people in these communities. Okay, she automatically, by her argument, buys into the premise that illegals, even in sanctuary cities, bad. Illegals, bad, right? She's going to go on to detail, we don't have the resources. This is a federal issue. We don't have the resources to take care of these people. Well, bitch, then why are you welcoming them into your communities? Straight up. It's a simple question. Why do you welcome in if you don't have why do you welcome them in if you don't have the resources to take care of them? The other thing that I really think is really despicable about what she just said is this whole thing about political pawns to enact vengeance against his political enemies. All right. What has been going on for the last 10 years in this country? Literally, Obama has been shipping 100,000 Somalis up to Minnesota and Michigan. He's been shipping immigrants, importing them hand over fist. Yes, there were a lot more deportations on the border than what Trump's getting, largely because Trump's hands are tied judicially by the courts. But Obama was bringing people in from Africa, bringing people in from Eastern Europe, bringing people in from deep Latin America, right? Bringing people in from the East and settling them in hundreds of thousands in largely European communities all over this country. And that's been going on for 10 years, all right? And how do I know that it's perfectly legal for Trump to do this? Well, first of all, I'm not a lawyer. Lawyers are much smarter about the law than myself. Nonetheless, I do know that I saw Obama do this for 10 years. Literally, stop and think about it. 100,000 in Minnesota alone. 100,000. It permanently flipped that voting bloc to the point that they got Ilhan Omar elected. You see the plan right here in action. You see exactly what's going on, right? What I mean is this. Political vengeance has been enacted upon us on the right for 10 straight years, probably longer. I would say actually since Bill Clinton. I'd say that it's been happening since 1990, let's call it 1996, probably earlier than that even, right? Political vengeance, we are the victims of political vengeance. Now, all of a sudden, the left gets a small taste of what it's like, and they run around with their hair on fire. We don't have the resources. These people in political bonds. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Right? And that's literally the only argument these people have, and it is hilarious. It is glorious to behold, dear listener. There are plenty of other leaders in the Bay Area that are bitching about this. San Francisco District Attorney George Gascon, I never knew how to say his name. I didn't care. I didn't vote for him. On Thursday, criticized President Donald Trump's tweet about considering sending, quote, illegal immigrants into sanctuary cities. Quote, with immigrants being less likely to commit crimes than U.S.-born population. Of course they are, because these immigrants, these little bundles of love, come in and stabilize the dangerous United States, the hazardous, racist United States. They come in and do the work that we won't do. They come in and take the jobs we won't take. They contribute to our economy. They make us safer. I continue with the quote. And with sanctuary jurisdictions being safer and more productive than non-sanctuary jurisdictions, the data damns this proposal is a politically motivated stunt that seeks to play politics with people's lives. Yeah, that's the one argument y'all got, leftists. All right. Now, when you're talking about these crime statistics right here, okay, there is a term you got to throw in there, and it goes like this right here. All right. Yes, Americans commit more crimes than illegals in absolute numbers, but there is another little factor that you got to throw in here, and that is per capita. Okay. That's the only statistic that matters right there. They're lies, they're damn lies, and they're statistics. You can make a statistic, say any argument you want it to say. And this is an easy one. You throw out that per capita factor, right? Now all of a sudden it turns out, oh yeah, that's right. Black Americans commit more crime than illegals. White Americans commit more crime than illegals. Asian Americans commit more crime than illegals. But when you throw that per capita in there, dear listener, I don't have the numbers pulled up right now, but the numbers are absolutely astounding, right? It's something like when you throw in the per capita, and what I mean is per capita, you choose a number, like by 100,000, by 1,000, by a million. A million's kind of too large to make a proper per capita statistic. Usually it's about per 100,000, okay? Per 100,000 illegals, so many more crimes are committed than by per 100,000 of white, black, Asian, and Mexican Americans. By far, this term per capita begins to matter, right? And you're talking about like, oh, they commit less crimes. They're just trying to come here and get a job and do the jobs you won't do, blah, 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 blah. It's absurd on its face. And this is easy to debunk. And this is how you do it to your shit-lib friends. You tell them that right there. Yeah, what is it per capita? What is it per capita? Pelosi came out raging about this. I'm going to play some audio about this in a minute, but I'm just going to read her quote. It was, I don't know anything about it, but again, it's just another notion that is unworthy of the presidency of the United States and disrespectful of the challenges that we face as a country, as a people, to address who we are, a nation of immigrants. Oh yeah? Nation of immigrants? A nation of legal immigrants, you stupid ass. You fool. Not a nation of immigrants, a nation of legal immigrants. And if you really want to get down to it, What we truly are is a nation of civilizers. But we ain't going to have that debate tonight because this is too glorious. We're just going to sit here and talk about it on his face, right? Cory Booker comes out and gets his word twisted up, dumbass that he is, and ends up admitting on some Sunday show that illegal immigration settling these in sanctuary cities would make us all less safe. Look it up. I've got the YouTube audio somewhere. I don't have it in the show prep right now, but go look it up for yourself, dear listener. He literally said it himself. I'm not lying. He said it. And it's like, damn, bro, you sure that's what you meant to say? Governor Gavin Newsom comes out and calls it asinine. But the best tweet of all was from John Brennan, former head of the CIA under the Obama administration. He dropped this on Friday the 12th. It goes thus. Your unfitness for office has never been more stark. Your lack of humanity, never more apparent. Your politics, never more craven. And your ultimate political ignominy, never more certain. Oh, my God. Liberals, do you understand it is to laugh? John Brennan, you sound a little bit nervous, if I may say. You don't just sound like angry. You sound a little bit unhinged. You might want to check your premises, if I may say. You also might want to check the temperature of the water you're in right now, if I may respectfully suggest. Except I ain't got no respect for you. I laugh at you. And everybody, if I may prevail, dear listener, everybody who listens to this show is now laughing at you, John Brennan. Oh, man, I thought that tweet was just glorious. I hope you did as well. All right, well, now, will any of this business actually be accomplished? Will we actually move illegals into sanctuary cities? Well, we'll see. I don't know. Too many people are talking about this in terms of the practicalities, in terms of the actualities, in terms of the real life notion. And they're also blackpilling about it, configuring in terms of, oh yeah, the president comes out, makes another threat, never acts on it. Doesn't matter what he says, he's just going to come up and bluster and bluster and bluster, and blah, blah, nothing's ever going to get done. Okay, to a certain extent, I get that point, okay? But I've been listening to a little bit of Limbaugh last week. I wasn't able to listen to much today. I think he has it right here. It's more about watching the Democrats collapse. It's about watching them, forcing them to expose themselves for the hypocrites they are, for the hypocrisy of their position, for the fact that they want all of these little bundles of love dropped all over red America, and they don't want them themselves at all. I'm going to play some audio from Tucker Carlson here in a minute. I'm going to play 2 clips from Tucker, as a matter of fact, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because nobody has done as good a job. Well, Rush did a great job, but nobody has done as good a job as Tucker about explaining this so far. Now, I do want to talk about this now that I've mentioned Rush, and I forgot to mention this at the top of the bit. It was really interesting how this went down, because Rush opened his Friday show saying, you know what? Dump these illegals in sanctuary cities, right? Well, no less than 20 minutes later, the president is tweeting about it. And 20 minutes after that, he's in front of the cameras with a microphone saying, hell yeah, we're serious. Excuse me, dear listener. We're seriously considering this. We're thinking about doing this for real. I mean, we're coming to a bipartisan agreement here. They want all these illegals. We need some relief at the border. We need to open up some shelters. They want all these illegals. They want their communities to be safer. Let's take them there, right? And then Rush kind of was making the argument in tandem at the same time that the president was making it. It was really something pretty funny to behold. So, yes, we know that the president listens to the HSP boys. We know this, right? But he'd definitely be listening to Rush. I tell you what, there's no doubt about it. He took the cue from Rush on that. And, of course, there's been all this leftist hair on fire shrieking about, oh, my God, Rush Limbaugh is making the report. It's making public policy. Oh, my God. Okay, whatever. We've already handled this. We're not going to do it again. Okay. Again, what I think is most productive for us here, and more lulzy, if I may say, and more funny, is watching the left literally, like Libby Schaaf just did, like Nancy Pelosi just did, literally make 2 arguments, diametrically opposed arguments in the same sound bit. It is fantastic. Dear listener, they've lost. They've lost the entire argument, and they are freaking the F out right now. And they know why. They know why. Because they just got called. They got called by a proper soldier. Now, how is it that I know this? Well, I'll tell you exactly how I know it. I'm going to take you back to ancient history. Dear listener, let's talk about, how about 3 weeks ago, okay? Where were the Democrats at in the political landscape just 3 weeks ago? It was like, this is a manufactured crisis. The president is lying. There's no problem going on the border. There's nothing going on. This is just racism. This is just using people as political pawns for the political agenda. There's nothing going on here. My. After 3 show weeks, look at what we're talking about now. We're talking about busting them up to sanctuary cities, right? And the left is shrieking in opposition. Look at how the Overton window has shifted in our direction. We're winning. We're winning this argument. We're to the point now where the left has quite literally, actually agreed with us that this is a horrible crisis going on at our border. They agree. They don't want it in their own cities. They say it themselves. They'll turn around and make the counter argument that directly contradicts that argument in the same sentence. In cases like Libby Schaaf, it's actually quite hilarious, right? Sorry about that. I'm getting a FaceTime call. It's a little bit distracting. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and send that one to voicemail, even though there is no voicemail on FaceTime. Sorry about that, dear listener. I might fix this in post. I might not. So anyway, there are a lot of people that are also configuring the president's actions in terms of, this is a great troll. It's a great troll. Nah, man, this is more than a troll. The business is getting done. Things are moving. The ball is moving down the field in our direction. And Mr. Trump, I am so proud. I am so grateful. After your gaffe 2 weeks ago, you come back up and you step up like this. You keep doing this. You got my support always. You got my support always anyway, but I prefer it when you don't screw up. So, all right, let's shift gears here a little bit. Oh, no. Wait. Before we shift gears. Okay, got one last thing. The best part of this bit, better than myself, almost as good as Limbaugh because Limbaugh broke it in real time, but I got this Tucker audio to play for you. You may have heard it on Friday night. I thought it was one of his finest segments ever. I've got 2 drops and they're both rather long. I might play it at 1.5 in the middle of all of a sudden you hear Tucker's voice kind of speed up. That's because I shifted the playback speed. Let's listen to what Tucker had to say about this. It was rather masterful.
Left loves impoverished immigrants from the developing world, and why wouldn't they? They make our cities safer, they tell us. They improve our schools. They provide the backbone of our economy. They do the work that we won't do. They are diverse. They are our strength. They are the best of America, even though technically they're not Americans. Sanctuary cities love them best of all. That's why they've become sanctuaries for illegal immigrants. Every Democrat now running for president has affirmed this repeatedly.
If you could, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall.
Absolutely.
Knock it down.
Offer a home to refugees. That is who we are. That's our values. That's part of what we do.
So instead of building a wall or closing the border, we should choose compassion instead of cruelty.
We welcome refugees and bring people out of the shadows.
Immigration is not a security issue. It is an economic and a humanitarian and a family issue. There is no such thing as an illegal human.
There is no such thing as an illegal human.
Okay, I got to jump in right here. I got to give a little bit of a semantics lesson right quick here. Okay. All right. There's no such thing as a human. The term human is an adjective. Its use as a noun is entirely regrettable. I wouldn't expect Kirsten Gillibrand to know anything about that. Sorry to interrupt, Tucker. We'll get back right. So anyways, dear listener, always human is an adjective. If you're going to employ the term human, you say things like human being, human compassion. It is a descriptor of a noun, not a noun unto itself. I'll get off my soapbox, but this really gets on my nerves a little bit. All right, let's go on with Tucker. Here we go.
Good point, Kirsten Gillibrand. We appreciate your eloquence. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf believes that so deeply that last year she warned illegal immigrants in her city, including several criminals, that an ICE raid was coming. She wanted to give them time to flee, and they did. As she later explained, she had no choice. All good people want more illegal immigrants in their cities.
It is a continued perpetuation of a racist lie that immigrants are not valued members of our society. We in Oakland know better. We in Oakland have a community that welcomes and honors all people, no matter where they came from or how they got here.
In Oakland, they're welcoming. In fact, the whole state is welcoming. In his inaugural address this spring, the incoming governor of California, Gavin Newsom, echoed those words. Everyone can come to California, he said. Absolutely everyone.
Let us build a house stronger than the coming storms, yet open to the world. A house that provides shelter to all who need it and sanctuary to all who seek it. We will not have one house for the rich and one for the poor, or one for the native born and one for the rest.
So the left really couldn't be clearer on this question. All immigration is good. More immigration is better. There is no distinction between legal and illegal varieties of immigration. And if you disagree with any of this, you are a white nationalist. That's what they've said almost every day for the past 2 years. We've watched carefully, and so have you. And now here, completely out of the blue, comes the man they despise most in the world, Donald J. Trump, offering them the one thing they want more than anything, more immigrants, immediately, delivered right to their door at federal expense. Well, it must have been like Christmas morning. You think you're getting another pair of socks, and yet there it is, a pony, tethered to your mailbox. Holy smokes, amazing. Best day of your life.
Sorry about that incorrect stop right there. My apologies, dear listener. There is another little bit from Tucker I want to play here that is pretty incredible. I'm going to skip forward about a minute. Here we go. It's talking about reactions from the left. And here it is right here.
Streets of American cities, democratic cities. Busing people, wrote the Washington Post Greg Miller, to dump them in cities, just to punish political rivals. In the view of Harry Siegel at the Daily Beast, quote, the White House wanted to dump refugees in sanctuary cities. Siegel called that idea nasty. At the same time, almost simultaneously, as if in concert, in fact, both CNN and MSNBC ran headlines accusing the White House of wanting to dump immigrants into cities. So what's the message the left is sending us? That immigrants are trash? Something you drop off as a cruel prank like a flaming bag of dog waste? If you wanted to defile someone's pristine city, you'd, quote, dump immigrants on it? Whoa, that sounds a little, searching for the word here, racist. A lot racist, actually, but Nancy Pelosi agrees with it, it turns out. She lives in one of these cities that might be dumped on, so she immediately issued a statement decrying it. Quote, the extent of this administration's cynicism and cruelty cannot be overstated. Using human beings, including little children, as pawns in their warped game to perpetuate fear and demonize immigrants is despicable. But wait a second, this is getting really confusing. It doesn't seem to make sense. How can the presence of immigrants, quote, perpetuate fear? Immigrants aren't dangerous. They've told us that 1,000 times. They're safer than you are. They're amazing, much more amazing than you are. Pelosi says that a lot. So why is it bad that Trump wants to send more immigrants to San Francisco? San Francisco is a sanctuary city. It subverted federal law in the hope that more illegal immigrants would come there. And now they may be coming. But San Francisco is upset. Well, say the news anchors, Trump's plan is illegal. You can't just send migrants to American cities, they're telling us. There's a process. Really? Did the people of Lewiston, Maine go through that process when an entire population of Somalis was moved from a refugee camp in Kenya to their already beleaguered city? Nope. No process. Nobody asked them. The government just did it. The same thing happened to Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and countless other places across this country. That's how it works. That's how it always works. But when you try to do the same thing to the city where Nancy Pelosi lives, it's supposedly, quote, illegal.
Well said, Mr. Carlson. It's not just about the hypocrisy again. It's not just about shifting the Overton window. It is about the fact, dear listener, that our president made this happen. We should be grateful. We should be standing up, flying our American flags, wearing our red MAGA hats, and be proud of our president right now. All right, now I'm going to shift gears. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about this this whole Spygate mess. Spygate, William Barr, all of this kind of stuff going on. It's all getting kind of convoluted, intentionally so by the media coverage, if I may say, because they want to confuse the issue. They want to make us confused about it. Well, I'm going to pick it apart a little bit for you here real quick. The basic gestalt, I'm going to just read from a Breitbart piece that dropped on the 10th, which was Wednesday of last week. It goes thus. Attorney General William Barr told senators during a hearing Wednesday that he thinks the Federal Bureau of Investigations did spy on the Trump campaign. Yes, quote, yes, I think spying did occur, Barr said. Quote, but the question is whether it was predicated, adequately predicated, and I'm not suggesting that it wasn't adequately predicated, but I need to explore that. I think it's my obligation. Congress is usually concerned about intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies staying in their proper lane, and I want to make sure that happened. We have a lot of rules about that. Now, as soon as he made this statement, oh, dear listener, you could just see the light leave the left's eyes. I can't remember who it was that he made that exact quote to in the Senate, and I regret that I don't have the audio pulled up right now. I would love to see it. You could just see her say, why would you say something like that? Why would you say that? Well, because I just want to check it out. I just want to make sure that no spying did occur, because that's your job here is government oversight, right? So let me take the point on this, do the government oversight for you, right? Slap, slap, slap. Every leftist contention brought to him slapped aside. Well, what happened? Right on time. The entire left melts down. The entire left all of a sudden starts sharpening the axes, right? They're going after Bill Barr now. Handpicked attorney general. Of course he's a handpicked attorney general. We've already litigated that in these hallowed halls. Of course he is, right? You approved him. After he was handpicked, you approved him. Name me one attorney general in the history of the United States that has not been, quote, handpicked. Pro tip, you can't find one, because they all are, right? Now, I want to illustrate here, because it must be said, okay? William Barr is not exactly like a Trump guy, right? He is, he's kind of a Bush guy, right? And, the Bush team and the Trump team, they're kind of at loggerheads. They have different visions for the future and present of the country, right? So I think that it can be said fairly that William Barr is a rather neutral, nonpartisan perspective on what's going on in the DOJ. Not to mention that it's really despicable of the left to sharpen the axes and the blades to come after him, and try to defame his character, try to shout him down to the point where he stops saying all of this stuff about, yes, I think spying did occur, to try to chase him off the trail, right? Because he is a previous attorney general. He has already served as attorney general, and he did so well. Now, I'm not going to come out and sit here and white pill all day about William Barr, okay? I want to see what's redacted out of the Mueller report that's coming on Thursday. As I said earlier, he's going to drop that report on Thursday. He announced it just today on Monday, tax day, April 15th. He said that, I'm going to get the Mueller report out by Thursday. As he promised Congress last week, he said it would be next week. Turns out that it's true. He's got to redact grand jury testimony, sources and methods, and things like that. But we have been promised that it is not going to be heavily redacted. It's going to be as slightly redacted as possible. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I want to see it. Am I full faith in William Barr? Not exactly, but he is doing an outstanding job so far, right? They're trying to get him to recuse himself like they did to Jeff Sessions. Oh my God. I was involved in this Russia stuff. I better step back, recuse myself, because I need to let, Rod Rosenstein run roughshod over the president and continue Spygate, continue spying on the president's campaign or the president's presidency at this point in time. But he's not doing that. He was so professional. I have to give it to him. I have not seen professionalism like that from the attorney general since the last time he was attorney general, to be perfectly honest. He was absolutely professional, absolutely legal, and was not political whatsoever. So I'm willing to trust him, right? And I think that you should too, dear listener. That's just my recommendation. I mean, you go with, you do you. I think that he's going to do the right thing in as much as he can, right? Now, we have to keep in mind that a lot of this evidence, a lot of this data has been destroyed. We've got to keep in mind also that he is at the helm of an entirely corrupt, through and through, Department of Justice and FBI, the likes of which we could never imagine. And this was done by Obama, but really not just Obama, George W. Bush, William Jefferson Clinton, and George H.W. Bush as well, right? We let this entire department get out of control to the point that they could spy on American citizens pretty much anytime they wanted to by giving a false FISA warrant to a FISA court and getting permission to spy. All right, we've detailed all of this in these hallowed halls. So let's see what happens, right? I think Thursday is D-Day, Determination Day. And now I don't want to co-opt the term because I'm too reverent for our veterans, particularly those from World War II. Well, all wars, to be perfectly honest, right? I don't want to co-opt the term, but Thursday is Determination Day. We find out exactly what Bill Barr is about by what he redacts, right? Now, some other developments have happened here, right? Turns out that William Barr did not just say to Congress that he was going to look into all of this overstepping by intelligence agencies. He's already conferred an internal team to look into it. I'm going to take a zero hedge piece from the 9th that goes thus. Attorney General William Barr has assembled an internal team at the Justice Department to review controversial counterintelligence decisions made by DOJ and FBI officials, including actions taken in the summer of 2016, according to Bloomberg, which cites a person familiar with the matter. This indicates that Barr is looking into allegations that Republican lawmakers have been pursuing for more than a year, that the investigation into President Donald Trump and possible collusion with Russia was tainted at the start by anti-Trump bias in the FBI and Justice Department. That's a quote from Bloomberg right there. This is great news, all right? I think that when you start looking at things like this, you start realizing that Bill Barr actually gives a damn about the Department of Justice. He actually gives a damn about the proper role of our government, right? That he's trying to keep it in line, right? He's not going after people. He's not going after the left. He's just trying to determine, okay, did our intelligence agencies overstep here? And by the way, he ain't just talking about the FBI. He's talking about the CIA and the NSA as well. Hat tip Mr. Bongino for that. I enjoy it every time you do that. He's talking about all those as well, right? He's talking about all intelligence agencies, right? And when you look at it in this light, it seems like he's trying to restore some thread of credibility back to our intelligence agencies because we need them. We need them to defend this country. We don't need them spying on presidential campaigns. We don't need them spying on you. We don't need them spying on me for no reason. Is it really necessary that they scoop up every email, every text, every phone call, all communications that American citizens make between themselves and store it in a data center in Utah and back it up to another data center in Houston every night? Is that really necessary? No, it's not, right? We're not all terrorists here, right? You investigate crimes. You don't investigate people. And you certainly don't store their communications indefinitely. We're protected by the Bill of Rights by this. We are safe and secure in our documents, and texts and phone calls and emails all count as documents in the modern age. So we'll see what happens. Luke and I will report back on Thursday. Something's going to go down on Thursday. We can guarantee you that. All right, now I'm going to shift gears again. I got to talk a little bit about Julian Assange. Man, a little bit shocked by the events of the past week. Julian Assange, just so you know, he was denied further asylum by the Ecuadorian government, and it immediately, right on cue, as soon as that asylum agreement was nullified by the Ecuadorian president, the Ecuadorian embassy was raided by British police. He was scooped up, handcuffed, taken downtown, looking not so great, I have to say, man. And I mean, just imagine you've been pretty much living in a 12 by 12 room for 8 years now. I mean, you'd probably be looking pretty haggard yourselves, and so would I, for that matter. Well, the first arguments that came out were things like, oh, he's just turned it into a cesspool. He's wiping feces on the walls. He skates around in the halls of the embassy at night, skateboards around in his underwear. He doesn't properly dress. He doesn't do any of this. He doesn't do any of that. He's been an ungrateful host. Okay, we're going to get more into the developments of what's really going on here in a minute. But I want to take some developments as they happened in real time immediately after the arrest, okay? Let me find out where I want to start this. I'm going to start at 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time on April 11th, last Thursday. Assange's lawyer has just confirmed that he was arrested not solely on charges stemming from skipping bail in the UK, but, quote, on behalf of the United States authorities in connection with an extradition request from the United States. Just confirmed. Assange has been arrested not just for breach of bail conditions, but also to a United States extradition request. This is from Jennifer Robinson. That's his attorney, and she's kind of a badass. I think she's going to do the business right here for Julian Assange. Okay. I'm going to go to 9 a.m. ET on the 11th. The official U.S. indictment of Assange has been published by federal prosecutors in Virginia. According to the indictment, Assange is being charged for his, quote, role in one of the largest compromises of classified information in the history of the United States, where he allegedly conspired with Chelsea Manning to, quote, break a password to gain access to a government computer containing classified information. Okay, so what this essentially means is that it is a hacking charge right here, okay? Hacking. That carries a maximum sentence of 5 years, and the United States is extraditing him from the UK to here because of hacking. All right. Now, just to refresh everybody's mind, Chelsea Manning, at that time Bradley Manning, because she transitioned, this is why Obama commuted her sentence when she was sitting there rotting in jail. She said that she wanted to transition, so Obama commuted her sentence, and she was no longer Bradley Manning. She became Chelsea Manning. She threatened to run for Senate in this election, but decided not to. And then it turns out about a week ago, she got taken downtown out of the blue and was demanded of her that she testifies against Julian Assange. She has henceforth refused. For that reason, she still languishes in jail, just like Paul Manafort did. Now, I shouldn't make that comparison because I don't know for certain that Chelsea Manning is in solitary confinement. But, I mean, listen, way to go, Chelsea. Way to step up for Julian Assange here, right? She is not going to testify against him. And so they continue to hold her in jail against her rights of habeas corpus, I would think. Nonetheless, I mean, there may be, by the fact that she wasn't pardoned and her sentence was only commuted, maybe they can re-invoke that sentence. These are things lawyers understand. I don't understand this kind of stuff. At 9:25 a.m. on the 11th, Glenn Greenwald dropped, who I love, man. He is not a leftist, but he is a liberal, right? He's an honest liberal. He dropped some God-tier tweets that I'm not going to go through because, I don't know, he really called out the hypocrisy and the threat of what is going on with Julian Assange and why this is really scary. And it occurs to me now that I should say right here up front, I am ride or die with Julian Assange for a couple of reasons, right? Governments do act hostilely in our worst interest on the regular. Julian Assange has never been about anything except full transparency. Furthermore, and most importantly, Julian Assange has a 100% correct record. You heard me? 100%. Julian Assange has never been wrong about anything he has ever reported. Julian Assange, yes, he was a hacker in hacker communities back in the day, but he does not acquire his information for WikiLeaks by hacking. People get this information and take it to him because he publishes it. He is a publisher. He is a journalist. He should have journalist protections here, not to mention whistleblower protections. None of these are being afforded to this poor bastard right now. And we're going to have to see how this goes. I'm going to jump forward in time on the 11th, last Thursday, 9:35 a.m. With Assange in custody, Sweden appears to be reviving its prosecution of Assange on rape charges stemming from his allegedly having unprotected sex against his consenting partners, plural, wishes. Elizabeth Massey Fritz, a lawyer who represents one of Assange's accusers in Sweden, has submitted a request to Sweden prosecutor's office for the investigation to resume, according to local media reports. A few other things to note have emerged in the past few minutes. Assange is now sitting at the dock at Westminster Magistrates awaiting the hearing. He is reportedly reading a Gore Vidal book. Okay. He's reading Gore Vidal here. Julian Assange is certainly not some right-wing Russia conspiracy theorist, conspiracy plotter. He certainly is not this. Anybody reading Gore Vidal, I guarantee you, is not. Sorry about that. I had to hit the cough button real quick. My apologies. Okay. All right, let's go through some of the more updates. Oh, and also I didn't mention what it was. This is the controversy with Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning was in the Army at the time of her arrest. She leaked information to Julian Assange of us in the Iraq War or Afghanistan. I can't exactly remember. Literally missiling some journalists interviewing jihadi soldiers, right? Killed them all. Killed 6 people. The United States said, yeah, let's just take them. Let's just take them out. Now, listen, I love my country. I'm not speaking out against my country. I am speaking out against the deep state which committed these crimes, because those were war crimes. And Chelsea Manning leaked those to Julian Assange, and he published them. And it turns out those videos, video evidence, was 100% correct, as always. But what this is really about, what Julian Assange has really drawn the ire of the deep state about, is this. It's leaking John Podesta's emails and the DNC emails. And for this, he must die. And that's exactly what they're going to try to do to him, dear listener. They are going to try to kill him, right? Regardless of your feelings about Julian Assange, if you are Trump trained, right, you have to admit that he really did some heavy lifting to help the president's campaign. And that's not because he's reading Gore Vidal as he's being arrested, right? He is certainly no Trumpian. He is certainly no Republican by any stretch of the imagination. What he is, though, is a truth teller, right? The left hates him when he busts the left. The right hates him when he busts the right. He is an equal opportunity leaker, buster here, okay? That's what you got to say about Julian Assange. He is fairly neutral, right? Hostile, yes. But all he wants to do is call out the corrupt actions of government in the interest of transparency. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I completely applaud it. Way to go, Mr. Assange. And one mo again, he is 100% accurate from heretofore. Never has he made a mistake. Never has he made a retraction. Okay? There's one other thing to say about this with the DNC leaks and the John Podesta email leaks. Okay? He was interviewed by a couple of news sources. They had to go to the Ecuadorian embassy because he was granted asylum there because he was in London when the girls in Sweden said, "Oh my God, this guy raped me by not having protected sex with me," and blah, 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 blah. It has all of the smell of a setup, okay? It also seems like that sex was consensual, and it also seems like money may have changed hands in that. Now, all of these things, I'm not sure about that, okay? But that's what it seems like, okay? Nonetheless, they reported after he left Sweden and went to London that he had raped them, right? So Sweden opened a rape charge against him, and he was sitting here in London running from place to place to place to place. Well, he was already in hot water also in the United States, right? He had to find a place to seek asylum, and Ecuador was generous enough to give him that asylum. That's how he ended up in the Ecuadorian embassy for 8 years. That's why he languished there for all of this time, okay? I want to go on. The next update, 9:50 a.m. on the 11th. Assange's bail hearing has begun with some not exactly objective words from District Judge Michael Snow. Snow said the WikiLeaks founder's behavior is, quote, narcissist and laughable, and he, quote, can't get past his own self-interests. My God, man. That's your judge saying that to you. Can you believe this? Right? Blind justice? Seems hardly blind there. 10 a.m. ET. Assange has been found guilty of failing to surrender. He will be sent to Southwark Crown Court for sentencing. Judge Snow declared that the assertion that Assange didn't receive a fair trial was, quote, laughable. Oh, indeed. 11:55 a.m. on the 11th. Swedish prosecutors have reopened their preliminary investigation into allegations of rape made by 2 women against Assange that were the initial reason why he sought asylum in the embassy. There you go. 12:50 p.m. ET. Clearly feeling the pressure from his many supporters who sympathize with Assange, President Trump told reporters in the White House press pool that, quote, I know nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing, end quote. Of course, then candidate Trump praised WikiLeaks repeatedly during the campaign after it released several tranches of emails purportedly stolen from the DNC and Clinton campaign manager John Podesta. Whatever happens next will be up to the Attorney General. Okay. Now, I think that this is a little bit disingenuous by the president, right? I think that this is a little bit of a misstep by the president, but I see a larger play going on here, all right? And this isn't 4D chess. This is just kind of simple logic. I'm going to red pill you about that here in just a sec after we get through these developments. There's one at 1:15 p.m., but you know what? That's enough. That's enough. Let's just move on. Okay. So he is being charged on hacking. He is being charged for hacking by encouraging, nonetheless, Chelsea Manning to hack a government computer to get those videos off of that computer give to WikiLeaks, which he would then report on WikiLeaks. That's what he's charged for. Okay. What's missing here? What's missing? I'll tell you what's missing. Russia is missing. Don't forget the fire and fury about Julian Assange, once again, is that he leaked the John Podesta emails and leaked the WikiLeaks emails, right? What the charge is that the Russian government hacked into the DNC servers, literally stole all those emails, gave those emails to Julian Assange, and Julian Assange published them on his website in an effort to help tilt the election in the favor of Donald Trump. Absurd on its face. There's an investigator, a God-tier investigator, who used to work for the government until he became a whistleblower by the name of William Binney. He conclusively proved that there is no way that could have been hacked on the internet because the data transfer rate was too rapid. We're talking about 27 megabytes per second was the data capture rate from the DNC servers onto what apparently was a thumb drive. It most certainly wasn't. You ain't getting 27 megabytes down or up on the internet anywhere, right? This information was copied to a thumb drive, and we can prove this forensically, all right? That means that there was a leak within the DNC. That means somebody went and plugged a thumb drive into the DNC servers and copied all of these emails onto this thumb drive, okay? Now, Rush came out as the arrest was happening, and he was like, oh, and there was this theory back in the day that it was this guy named Seth Rich who was later murdered in Washington, D.C., but this story has been thoroughly debunked. I'm not so sure about that, Rush. I usually agree with everything you say, but this story has not been debunked for one reason and one reason only, because there is only one person and one person only who knows the source of those leaks, and that is Julian Assange himself. Nobody else knows where the DNC leaks came from. Nobody. And Julian Assange has not come out himself and said, yeah, Seth Rich gave me that information, or no, Seth Rich did not give me that information. He has not said anything about who it was because he does not compromise his sources. He has only said one thing to Sean Hannity, and that interview, which I didn't really get all the way through when I mentioned it just a little bit ago, when he talked to Sean Hannity, and he assured Sean Hannity that it was not a government entity that gave him that information. It was a singular private person, okay? In other words, what Julian Assange is saying, Hannity literally asked him the question, did you get the emails from Russia? It was not a government entity of any type that gave me the emails. Okay, okay, was it an individual person? And you can kind of see Assange kind of nod just a little bit, even though he's very careful and very measured with his behavior. He says that it was an individual person who gave him that email, okay? Now, this is going to become important in just a moment, so file that aside. But meanwhile, listen, Rush, I love you to death, but you're wrong. That theory about Seth Rich has not been debunked. It has not been dismissed. There's only one person in the world who can do that, and that's Julian Assange. All right. Some really crazy stuff has come out since this happened. And I want to quote here from Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. He said, I'm reading from a Zero Hedge piece on the 11th. It goes about 3 paragraphs down. During an appearance on CNN, West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin on Thursday praised UK police for apprehending Assange, never mind that critics have blasted his arrest as a violation of national sovereignty, and said that it will be really good, quote, it will be really good to get him back on United States soil. Nevertheless, Manchin added that Assange is now, quote, our property. We can get the facts and the truth from him. Manchin added that Assange is now, quote, our property. We can get the facts and the truth from him. Dang. There was a smart Zero Hedge piece that came out. The title of the piece is The DOJ's Entire Case Against Assange Hinges on This One Critical Piece of Evidence, and that is this piece of evidence. I'm not going to read the whole article. Did Julian Assange willingly encourage Chelsea Manning to hack that government computer? Okay? Now keep in mind, this is the unique charge. Chelsea Manning. Again, what is missing here is Russia, right? All of the fire and fury about this is that he colluded with Russia to leak the emails to tilt the 2016 election in Donald Trump's favor. Why don't we see charges about that? Why are there no charges? Why has the United States DOJ not tried him yet on Russia charges? I mean, that's really the big crime here. Chelsea Manning, honestly, is small potatoes. Compared to that, that was just a government information leak. This you're talking about colluding to tilt an election, an entire election. No charges yet. Huh. Ain't that funny? Julian Assange has not been charged on anything having to do with Russia whatsoever. I'm going to tell you why this is. This is exactly why. Number one, they can't charge him on Russia. And I'll tell you why. Because if they do, he is going to be asked under oath. Okay, all journalistic privilege aside right now, who was it that gave you the information? That person was right there. He's going to say that under oath. He says that, everybody burns when they find out who the source was, who the individual was, right? Russia collusion burns if they charge him with this and he gives testimony about it in court. But it doesn't really matter because by the very fact that they have not charged him on anything having to do with Russia already burns the heart out of Russia. Russia is so serious. The president didn't collude, but everybody has been saying Julian Assange colluded. You're not going to charge him for it? Russia was always false. It has never been anything but a spying scandal into the Trump campaign and then the Trump presidency in order to subvert his presidency because they don't like him, right? He's not globalist enough for them. That's really what it is. Let that sink in. Julian Assange already has them checkmated. Just in the charging documents already. He's already won. Now, I got to give Dan Bongino a hat tip for that. He pointed that out very brilliantly this week, and I appreciate it, Mr. Bongino. But to be fair, I was kind of already on top of that. I'm a Julian Assange fanboy, man. I always have been. So now, I was having a really interesting conversation with a certain dear listener this weekend. The conversation was about this topic right here, and it was like, why now? All right, he's been sitting there languishing in jail for 7-8 years, right? Like, why now? Right? And you can tell also, not just why now, how now, but you can tell that this is kind of a government coordinated effort, right? I mean, Ecuador drops their asylum agreement. The UK police invade. Sweden opens their rape case. United States files an extradition treaty. And I've even been hearing rumors of crazy shit like they're going to send him off to Saudi Arabia to quote unquote be questioned, is what they're saying. All right. Well, I looked into it a little bit and I think I found the reason why, and I didn't even have to look too deep because it was on the front page of Zero Hedge just today. Now, these are things I already knew about, but I didn't find one article that put it together so concisely. Zero Hedge, you guys do the work so much. Thank you, Tylers. I appreciate it so much. I'm proud to quote y'all each and every single week. This piece dropped today. It says, Ecuador's Moreno, Assange asylum revoked because he used embassy as a center for spying. That's the argument. Okay, the conversation I was having with dear listener. Why? How? Well, this is what the Ecuadorian president says. Aside from releasing a brief video statement where he attributed the decision to revoke Julian Assange's asylum to the WikiLeaks founder's repeated rule violations, as well as Assange's refusal to stop interfering in global affairs, Ecuadorian President Lenín Moreno has remained conspicuously silent in the days since British police entered his country's London mission and arrested Assange on charges of skipping his bail and compromising to break into a government computer. Conspiring, rather. Sorry about that. I'm not going to read it again. But that changed on Sunday when The Guardian published Moreno's first interview with an English-language news source since Assange's arrest, and in a revelation that appeared to undermine his insistence that Ecuador's decision to revoke Assange's asylum and citizenship wasn't influenced by foreign powers, Moreno changed his story once again, telling The Guardian that Assange had tried to use the embassy as a, quote, center for spying. This is the first time Moreno has made this allegation. Quote, Any attempt to destabilize is a representable act for Ecuador because we are a sovereign nation in respect of the policy of each country, Moreno said. It is unfortunate that from our territory and with the permission of authorities of the previous government, facilities have been provided within the Ecuadorian embassy in London to interfere in the process of other states. Oh, dang, that was a quote. Oh, Zero Hedge, y'all didn't. I would have done it in accent, dear listener, but Zero Hedge didn't put the quotation mark in there. My apologies. I'll get it right this time. We cannot allow the house that opened its doors, to become a center for spying. Of course, Assange's arrest came just one day after WikiLeaks held a press conference to accuse Ecuador of illegally spying on Assange. Critics, including Moreno's predecessor, Rafael Correa, have accused Moreno of bowing to pressure from the United States. Listen to this. Hoping Assange's arrest would help Ecuador secure a lucrative trade deal or convince the superpower to cancel some of his country's debt. Now, dear listener with whom I had the conversation, there's the motive right there. Trade deal seeking. Why now? That's why. Because Julian Assange came out and said, yo, these some bitches are spying on me. Number two, they see a chance to get into trade negotiations with the United States. Now, I want to point out this other kind of conspicuous timing, this weird fact, and that is this. That is that on March 12th of 2019, 1 month ago, 1 month and 3 days ago, Ecuador received a huge loan from the IMF, which was going to be denied. But then all of a sudden, the clouds parted, the path cleared, and Moreno got his money from the IMF. It's a loan, but nonetheless, it's an IMF loan, which means it's a guaranteed loan. Okay? My. Ain't that timing funny? That sounds a lot like, you give us Assange, we'll give you some money. Want to move on just a little bit more. There was an interesting piece that dropped yesterday, and I thought I had the audio, but unfortunately I don't. Giuliani was on one of the Sunday shows this past week, right? And he made this really intriguing statement, and I wish I had the quote, I wish I had the audio, but I don't have it, so I'm going to have to paraphrase, but you can believe me on this because I'm not lying. He said it on, I don't know, I think it was Face the Nation, but I could be wrong about this, but I think it was, right? Julian Assange, and I do paraphrase, said something to the effect of, this Assange arrest is good, right? Because, he may come back here to the United States and answer questions. Help us find out about how the Ukraine tried to influence the 2016 election against Donald Trump. Boom! That's it right there. This is where I think the 4D chess move is going in. Trump comes out and says, I don't know anything about WikiLeaks. It's not really my bag. Except that he did say he loves WikiLeaks 147 times on the campaign trail. I've seen the video of it. Thought it was a little bit disingenuous. But the president is never disingenuous. He's always says exactly what's on his mind. I detect some 4D chess here because Rudy Giuliani is out there saying, oh, yeah. Another side note about this, if we get Assange back here to the United States, we can find out about Ukraine interference in our elections. Now, remember, dear listener, I talked about this in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 4. This is the real rabbit hole right here, right? Joe Biden was working in Ukraine to get kickbacks for his son, Hunter. We know that there is an investigation in Ukraine right now on Hillary Clinton trying to influence the election against Trump. Rather, Ukraine trying to influence the election on Hillary Clinton's behalf against Trump. This is very serious stuff. How do I know it's serious? Because nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it, right? And, Giuliani yesterday, Rudy Giuliani on TV, right there on live national TV, drops this little red pill about, Assange might help us find out about Ukraine. This is good. Doesn't say anything about Russia. Doesn't say anything about Chelsea Manning. The only thing he said about Julian Assange is, this could help us out with Ukraine a little bit. Ooh. Now, I'm not one of these subscribers to the 4D chess theory. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, but there's something going on here. And dear listener, we don't know the end of this story by a long shot yet. But as we figure it out, I'll report back to you and I'll let you know what's going on. Meanwhile, if you don't believe me about Giuliani saying that, it is all over YouTube right now. I was just neglectful in my sourcing this week. This is not conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact, okay? It's out there, okay? Now, where are we at? What would I do at this point in time? Now, I'm personally, I do not want Julian Assange to be extradited to the United States because they'll end up doing something like taking him to Guantanamo, putting him in solitary like they did Paul Manafort, probably torturing him, something like that. This is the deep state he's up against right here, right? This is not Trump's government. This is the deep state, so I literally fear for his life. When I heard that they were trying to send him to Saudi Arabia for a, quote, questioning, I was like, oh my God, they're going to try to kill him. That's what I told my parents. They're going to send him to Saudi Arabia. They're going to try to kill him. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily want him back here. But if he does come back here, is extradited to the United States and appears in court, ooh, I'm looking forward to it because we're going to get some bombshells right there. I tell you what, there's this other thing going on. I happen to know this to be an absolute fact. This is not conspiracy. This is also conspiracy fact, okay? Julian Assange uploaded to the internet about 70 to 80 gigs of information. I'm going to call it about a year and a half ago. And he put what's called a dead man switch on it, okay? And the file is encrypted. I know this for a fact. You can't open it. You have to have the encryption key, right? And I happen to know also about at least 3 million people have this file. I'm going to say probably even more than that. I'm going to go as high as 5 million people have this file, the 70 gig file, right? And when it was put on a dead man switch, here's what I mean, okay? Julian Assange has to deactivate that switch on the regular. If ever he misses a deactivation of that switch, the dead man switch, well, that means Julian Assange is dead. And that encryption key leaks. And I'm betting it probably goes to Twitter. I actually don't think it's going to be just Twitter. I bet it's going to be numerous places. Then all of a sudden that encryption key is out there. If it is on Twitter for 1 second, if it is on Twitter or the Chans or anywhere for literally 1 second, that encryption key will be all around the world within minutes. Everybody will have that encryption key. And everybody that has that data file will have the encryption key to unlock that data file. Now, again, a lot of people in the mainstream media have been saying, there's this conspiracy going around that Julian Assange has a big dump and blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's a big dump. Maybe it's not. What's the conspiracy theory is what you just said, mainstream media, that it was a big dump. We don't know this. All we know is that it's a 70 to 80 gig file, something like that. Okay? Oh, let's just see what happens. And I will let you know as it does. I promise you. Now, I mentioned Julian Assange's attorney, Jennifer Robinson. Excuse me, cough switch. I just didn't want to make you suffer through my cough again. Luke and I always get on this show and start getting frogs in our throat and all this kind of stuff. Sorry, it happens every single time. I'm clear as a bird all day long. Luke's the same way. We hit the red button and all of a sudden, it happens with regularity. Don't understand what's up with that. This is probably the last hurdle the HSP boys need to get through to radio perfection, but we're going to get through it together, dear listener. Please indulge us. Sorry about that. We'll do our best. Now, I told you about Jennifer Robinson. She's kind of a badass. She's a heavy-hitting attorney, very smart. She is a member of WikiLeaks. She's not just Julian Assange's hired gun. She is in WikiLeaks, all right? Now, what I would do, were I her, going forward, I would prosecute this trial in the media, and I would also wait for that court date, and I would make the case thusly. When has Julian Assange ever been wrong? Unlike the fake news, the mainstream media, the New York Times, who has to issue a retraction every other day, the Washington Post, who has to issue a retraction every other day, all of these news outlets who have not yet issued an retraction about being wrong about Russia, these cucks, these liars, these deep state operators, these complicit mouthpieces of the deep state are liars. And Julian Assange has never told a lie. He is 100% correct on everything he has ever reported. That would be my contention number one. Contention number two, when has Julian Assange ever hacked anything? Never. Julian Assange used to be a hacker, yes, but he knows a bunch of hackers, and these people are the ones who hack government information, and they deliver it to him because Julian Assange is a proprietor. He is a publisher. He is a journalist. There is no difference between Julian Assange and the New York Times or the Washington Post. Again, as I said earlier, he should be offered these journalistic protections. He should be offered definitely whistleblower protections, but we know the deep state don't like no whistleblowers, right? Julian Assange wants transparency. He wants the people to know what's going on with their governments in the world, right? And he has never been wrong. He made a fascinating quote one time, and I'm trying to conjure it up right now. I was talking to a dear listener about it this weekend. I can't remember exactly what it was, so I have to paraphrase once again. He said something to the effect of, okay, you know it's a conspiracy if it responds to the pressure you apply to it. My, look at all this response we're getting from all these governments around the world. He happens to be correct about that quote. All right. Number 3. Here's what I would do right now. I would compromise my sources for the one and only time ever. In the interest of my defense, I would drop the name right now to the news media of the person who leaked the DNC emails to WikiLeaks. Okay? Again, Assange already told Hannity that it wasn't Russia, right? And everybody's saying that it's been debunked that it was Seth Rich and all this kind of stuff. It has not been debunked that it was Seth Rich, right? It can only be debunked by Julian Assange himself by saying the name. And I guarantee you, Jennifer Robinson herself doesn't even know what that name is. Julian Assange is going to have to tell her what that name is. I would do it right now. I would leak it to the media. I would not save it for a rigged court proceeding going against you. Try this case in the media right now. Give us that name. And here's the last thing I would do. I'd start dropping the bombs right now. I'd start dropping that encryption key if you can, Julian. Jennifer Robinson, I'd start dropping the bombs about, okay, yeah, you know what? We got dirt on you. We got dirt on everybody, all right? How long is this madness going to go on? Here's the dirt we got. You. All the way up to the highest echelons of the permanent bureaucracy in this government. That's what I would do. I would go on the offense right now. I would not sit here and wait for charges. I would do it right now. And that is the Rust strategy for how we get Julian Assange out of jail. I want to talk a little bit about NXVIUM, man. Some business went down last week. Yet another Zero Hedge getting a lot of love, as they always do. This piece dropped on Monday the 8th. It goes thus. Former Smallville actress Allison Mack wept in a Brooklyn federal courtroom on Monday as she pleaded guilty to charges that she manipulated women into becoming sex slaves for the leader of a purported self-help group tied to the Clintons. Fact. The 36-year-old Mack apologized to the women who prosecutors say were exploited by the group's leader, Keith Raniere, with the inner sanctum of its NXVIUM self-help business known as, quote, Dominus Obsequious Sororium, Latin for master over the slave women. Ooh, me too. Mack allegedly occupied the second most senior position in the group. Not allegedly, she did. Quote, I believed Keith Raniere's intentions were to help people, and I was wrong. Yeah, you know something? Bullshit, Allison Mack. You got the brand? You got the brand on your waist? You got the brand. You didn't believe anything about he was trying to help women out, so shut up. Plead guilty, which she did. I know I can and will be a better person. Her sentencing was set for September 11th. Okay, this right here is April 15th, tax day. September 11th is the day of her sentencing. They're holding her in jail for a long time on no bail because, number one, she is a flight risk, but number two, I guarantee you what's going on right here is they are harvesting testimony from Allison Mack against Keith Raniere. Mack allegedly procured women for Raniere who required that prospective, quote, slaves upload compromising collateral into a Dropbox account. One such recruit turned coach was India Oxenberg, daughter of Dynasty actress Catherine Oxenberg, who met with prosecutors in New York in late 2017 to present evidence against Raniere. Mack's guilty plea will mean she doesn't have to stand trial with Raniere, wealthy Seagram's heiress Claire Bronfman, and another NXVIUM Inner Circle member Kathy Russell, all of whom have pleaded not guilty and denied wrongdoing, according to the Hollywood Reporter. All right, let me get off script a little bit right here. This is what's going on with all this, all right? So NXVIUM got busted one by one. They got taken downtown. Keith Raniere got busted in a hovel somewhere in Mexico, was extradited by Mexico back to the United States, right? They had already busted Allison Mack. They were trying them together as a group, right? And they're like, okay. Human trafficking, number one. They dropped the charges slowly. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Sex slavery. Number 2, okay, yeah, just general slavery. Number 3, and then it dropped, boom, pedophilia. At this point in time, Allison Mack freaked out and she's like, okay, I'm out. I can't be tried with these people. You're going to have to try me individually. I'm not guilty of pedophilia. All of these other people, yes, innocent until proven guilty. I totally get it, right? But what has just happened is that Allison Mack has pleaded guilty to everything except pedophilia, all right? Is she going to give testimony about this? Yeah, we'll see. But I believe so. I believe so. I also believe that this is going to be a major pedophile ring that gets busted. I want to recall your attention to Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 4, which I talked about last week. Claire Bronfman herself showed up for her sentencing hearing 2 weeks ago, right? And was asked directly, have you ever procured the services of one Michael Avenatti to come to your defense? And she fainted. She fainted right there in court. Is Michael Avenatti all mixed up in this NXVIUM stuff? His best friend, after all, is the one defending Claire Bronfman. He's one by the name of Mike Garagos, and he is as corrupt as they come, just like Michael Avenatti is. Creepy porn lord. You know, y'all know who I'm talking about. Michael Avenatti, you know? Creepy porn lord, CPO, right? When Claire Bronfman was asked about Michael Avenatti's involvement, well, she faints. You kidding me? She faints in court? There's some serious smoke here. And dear listener, I believe there is some fire here. And so we will find out what happens with Allison Mack's sentencing. She's been being held on no bail, right? And we're going to find out how this trial goes and exactly who goes downtown with it. I guarantee you it is going to be shocking. All right. It begins. Ex-Obama counsel to be indicted following Mueller probe. Greg Craig, a White House counsel in the Obama administration, expects to be indicted in the coming days on charges related to his work for Russia-aligned government of Ukraine. Isn't that funny how Ukraine keeps coming up? The 74-year-old legal heavyweight who served in senior legal roles for 2 Democratic presidents reportedly refused to accept a plea deal, and the matter could be presented to a grand jury for indictment as soon as Thursday. Yeah, well, it did happen. Greg Craig did go downtown, and the left is trying to configure this in sort of a way like, oh, you see, this was a bipartisan Mueller probe, right? They didn't just arrest Republicans here. They arrested Democrats, too. This is just being fair. Turnabout is fair play. Yeah, no. What we're talking about here is he literally, just like Paul Manafort, just like Tony Podesta, was an unregistered foreign lobbyist for Ukraine, representing the Ukraine's interest. And I'm thinking, based on the way things went down, he may be involved in this Ukraine swinging of the 2016 election on behalf of Hillary Clinton. 2 big announcements in the presidential sphere. Eric Swalwell announces his official presidential run. Also, Buttigieg Mayor Pete has said that he is going to run. So we've got some new candidates in the ring. I think that makes it up to 19 now, if I'm counting correctly, but it's getting to be so many. I just can't keep up. There was a fantastic piece, or fantastic clip from Maxine Waters grilling, as the left said, financial CEOs, asking their role in the student loan crisis. It was hilarious. I have a lot of stuff about the student loan bubble, how it formed, this clip of Mad Maxine and what she said about it. I kind of want to strike while the iron's hot, but it's getting a little bit too late. I think Luke might have a lot to say about this as well. So I'm going to talk with him about it. We might bust it for you on HSP, and I think that that's the more proper place to bust it. I've got the Candace Owens clip. Okay, everybody's listened to it this week, but it was so god tier because Candace Owens knows what's up. She knows who works for who. She knows how the business is done. I have seldom seen anybody stand up to Congress like that and not be cowed, not be bullied. And she did the work. In the interest of time, I'm not going to play the audio, but Miss Owens, hat tip, way to go. Glad I'm on your side. Now, last thing I got for you this week, dear listener. This is perhaps the funniest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. It was a clip that dropped on Rush Limbaugh.
Me of this.
Let me stop it right here. It was a clip that dropped on Rush Limbaugh last week. It is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. I had a conversation with a certain dear listener about it. I have listened to this clip no less than 25 times at this point in time, and I'm playing it for you because it hasn't gotten old yet. I don't think it's ever going to get old. The clip still exists on YouTube, so find it while it's hot. I'm just going to play it from about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the show. Here it is right here.
You all remember Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia? You remember this guy, Ralph Northam, that came out there and said that if a woman wants to kill her baby, even after it has done been born, then she can in Virginia. And that we're going to do whatever we can to make that baby comfortable while the woman be deciding. And then, after that had been learned, it had been revealed that Governor Northam had posed in blackface for photos in his medical school yearbook. And so those photos and the blackface controversy were used to make everybody forget about what Ralph Northam has said about babies being expendable. And then the lieutenant governor was discovered to have been his own kind of sexual predator, which then further made people forget about Ralph Northam. And then the media, since they're both Democrats, decided to try to forget about both of them. And it looks like that it has worked, because I have a story here from the Washington Free Beacon. And you want to hear the headline? Well, here it is. Virginia Democrats sorry for rush to judgment against Governor Northam. And you note they had to get that name Rush somewhere in the headline. Virginia Democrats call for Governor Northam to resign. But now they say they're sorry. They were rushing to judgment out there. Statements were made before people even talked to the governor. It was like a snowball coming at you bigger and bigger and bigger, said Delegate Patrick Hope of the Frenzy. And so now everybody apologizing to Governor Northam, who has survived both the baby controversy and the blackface, because the people who went after him now say that they are sorry.
All right, I'm going to cut it off right there to, cut out Rush's bumper music right there. I don't want no copyright infringement. I probably already stepped on too much copyright there. But Mr. Limbaugh, you give to humanity. You give to our country. While the woman be deciding. Oh, my God. All right. Listen, Mr. Limbaugh. He was proud too, dear listener. I'm watching on the Ditto cam right now. He went and hit the mute button for the end of the segment, and he was smiling, man. He was proud he put that down that way, and I'm proud of you too, Mr. Limbaugh. I've disagreed with you a little bit about Julian Assange this week and Seth Rich, and I don't really disagree with you about much, but, man, more of this, please, sir. More Governor Northam, Governor Ralph Northam. More of that, please, sir, because there are a few things in the world that just kind of get to me and crack me up, dear listener. And Rush Limbaugh doing Governor Ralph Northam is one of them. All right. It's coming up now on 8:30, April 15th, tax day, and I got to roll, dear listener, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, because the Dallas Stars are fixing to drop the puck against the Nashville Predators tonight. I got some business. I got to go watch the Stars win this game. Now, listen, I just want to say, I know that we have a lot of listeners in Tennessee, in Nashville in particular. Tazewell, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, a couple other towns that I've not yet shouted out. Listen, y'all are a formidable opponent, okay? I respect y'all very much. I am a diehard, long-time Dallas Stars fan. We are thrilled to be in the playoffs right now. We've had some rough decades going on here for quite some time, but things suddenly the puck is bouncing in the right direction for our team, and I am honored and delighted to be facing off against you tonight, Nashville Predators fans. I am probably going to be, cussing and discussing some hockey games on the radio show going forward. And by the way, Luke is a Stars fan. Luke and I, that year, 2 years ago, I guess it was, the last time the Stars made the playoffs, we went and watched every game at the bars. Watched every game with a buddy of ours who has to go nameless, but Luke and I do cordially and eagerly invite into these hallowed halls anytime he wants to come. We got some business to talk with him. But we had so much fun watching the Stars. Stories were created. Legends were made. It was so much fun. We might tell you about some of those someday, dear listener. This is not classified information, but I want to keep my focus on you, worthwhile Nashville Predators fans. You know what? Let's just drink some beer. Let's have some fun. We're both happy to be in the playoffs, right? I mean, I love y'all's team, except for maybe Subban, right? Subban's a little bit shady from time to time. I mean, except for him, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but like sometimes his attitude's a little bit off. All right, y'all probably got some criticism about a couple players of ours like that, and that's cool. But meanwhile, let's just keep it cool. We're cool, Tennessee. We're cool, Nashville. All right. If I get obnoxious, feel free to send me some feedback and tell me to start to tone down the Stars fanboy business. And I'll do it in your respect. But we are delighted to be here with you right now, and I can speak for all Stars fans. So we got a puck drop here in about 5 minutes. Let's go have some fun and go Stars. And that just about does it for Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 5 this week, dear listener. I hope you had as much fun in listening as I did putting it down. We covered a lot of material tonight. This was top of the stack business tonight, only because Luke and I did not roll with HSP this week. But like I said, Luke is rip-roaring and ready to go for next week, and I'm rip-roaring and ready to go as well. We're going to be back at you promptly next weekend. So, dear listener, much love, much respect. Be back at you before you know it.